Hello and welcome to the Ancient History series powered by the Zoom Foundation. Today, our discussion would be around Jainism and Buddhism. We'll be discussing how they rose from the Vedic traditions, who were their proponents, and what was their significance in the context of ancient history. First things first, let us discuss the reasons behind the growth of these two new schools of thought. We know that there were two major traits that the Indian society had inherited from the Vedic traditions. It was the caste system or the varnashram, and the other one was the ritualism that had slowly crept in the Indian society. It was the time when tribal laws and customs were fast being substituted by the varna system. We had previously discussed the varna system or the varnashram. The civil and criminal laws that were also being framed at that point of time were highly skewed in the favor of the higher varnas. There was an evident lack of opportunity for the Shudras, and they were relegated to jobs such as slaves, artisans, and laborers, and their status could not be uplifted. On the economic front, the artisans and the merchants, who primarily belonged to the Vaishya class, they had received a boost. Trade was increasing, and with trade, the bookkeeping also came into existence. Towns were being created in the midst of village clusters, and people were also taking part in trade apart from agriculture. It was mostly agriculture fueled growth, although urban centers had also started coming up. We know that the Mahajanapadas had come in existence a little before Buddha and Mahavira came in the scene. There was also industry support to this agriculture. The tax base was increasing, and with this tax base, it allowed the monarchy or the ruling class to maintain a standing army. In the political front, powerful kings like Bimbisara and Ajatashatru came to rule in Mahajanapadas. The older Vedic institutions such as Sabha and Samiti were discarded, and they were replaced by parishads, and these parishads were mostly led by the Brahmanas. It led to a kind of revolt by the Kshatriyas and Vaishyas against the hegemony that was being perpetrated by the Brahmanas. Also, the ritualism or the animal sacrifices that had crept in the traditions had also hampered agriculture, as agriculture was largely dependent on livestock. Now let's start with Jainism. The Jain people believe that there were 24 Tirthankaras or teachers. They were wandering teachers who taught their students about the evils of the society. And these Tirthankaras, they hail from as far back in history as 1500 BC. So you see, there is not much historical evidence about the Tirthankaras. That is the first 23 of them. About Mahavira, who was the last one of them, the 24th one, some evidences are available. He was born as Vardhaman in and around Vaishali, and the year was approximately 540 BC. He belonged to the clan Natrika. His father was Siddhartha, who was the head of Natrikas, and his mother was Trishala, who was the sister of the Licchavi king. So you see, Mahavira was born to parents of high status and power. Also, you must understand this, that Trishala, his mother, was related to Bimbisara and Ajatashatru as well, as probably it was her sister that married Bimbisara. So Ajatashatru and Mahavira turned out to be cousins. Mahavira had married in his early life and had a wife whose name was Yashoda. And together they had a daughter whose name was Priyadarsika. But Mahavira left home when he was 30, and he came into contact with a person called Mahagoshala, who he took him as his teacher. This Mahagoshala was the founder of Ajivika sect. This was a sect that believed in fate or determinism. He studied under Goshala for some time, and when he was 36, he left him and became a naked monk. At Vaishali, when he was 42, he sat under the tree in the banks of Rijupalika, the river Rijupalika, and he attained salvation or Kaivalya, as the Jains like to call it. He died when he was 72 at Pavapuri because he undertook Santhara. Now Santhara is a curious thing. It is a fast unto death, and it has also come into some kind of controversy, as there were certain cases that were leveled against it, calling it illegal. However, in the Indian judiciary has not yet declared it illegal, but it's a ritual where a Jain, and preferably a Jain monk, who commits fast, and he continues this fast until he dies. They hope to gain salvation or Mahakaivalya after this. So that was how Mahavira met his end. Now, essentially, Jainism revolves around 5 doctrines. These are Satya, truth; Ahimsa, non-violence; Asleya, that is, not to steal; Aparigraha, that is, not to own property; and Brahmacharya, that is, celibacy. And also, there are 3 Ratnas, that is, the right knowledge, right faith, and right action. Now, right knowledge means common sense, and the right faith means the faith for Mahavira, that is, the faith on his philosophy, on whatever he taught; and right action, that is, work, doing good deeds. The Jains believe everything's got a soul and everything has been created for a purpose. So, here are 2 important concepts, that is, the concept of Jiva and Ajiva. Jiva is the soul and Ajiva is the body. Now, the Jains believe that this Ajiva or the body is a complete waste. That is why you would see that the Jains, they undertake hard penance. That is, they would be committing atrocious acts on their bodies, like committing fasts or going around without food, clothes, etc. The Jains abhor materialism. They say if you get attached to materialism, it activates your Ajiva. But your Ajiva is a waste. All you have to do is concentrate on Jiva. You have to be mindful that you don't harm any animal or any other living being. You don't kill them, you don't eat them. You can't spoil its purpose. As you have rightly remembered, they believe that everything or every life on earth has been created for a purpose. So we as a human have got no right to spoil its purpose. So we find that Jiva is primary and even God is secondary to that. They gain Kaivalya or Moksha or salvation only when the Jiva is activated. However, there are certain contradictions in Mahavira's teachings as well. Mahavira had advised his followers against agriculture, but he did not advise them against trade. So you see, he was silent on it, and there was a contradiction, as trade can also beget materialism. But there is one thing to be said about Jainism, that there was no gender discrimination. Mahavira had said that women can also attain Kaivalya, but they did not need to join him. And also you must remember this, Mahavira never criticized Varna. Mahavira never criticized Varna because the soul, that is what is important to him, the soul does not have any Varna. But Mahavira was against Veda. Mahavira had much problems with it. He was against Brahmanical supremacy, and he also accused them of promoting animal sacrifice through the sacrificial rituals. Now, this is something that we will be discussing after Buddhism as well, that Buddhism and Jainism never really became religion in the times of their prophets, that is, Mahavira or Buddha, if you like to call them that. You see, Jainism was just a moral code during the times of Mahavira. It was not a religion, actually. According to it, every soul possesses the potential of becoming great, and this soul has got a purpose to live. And we have discussed that as human beings, we can't spoil its purpose. The universe functions through the interaction of the Jiva, that is the soul, and anything in this universe, including non-living things, has a soul. Jainism mainly aims at attainment of bonds. No ritual is required. Mahavir was strictly against ritualism, and it can be obtained through the 3 Ratnas that we had discussed: the right knowledge, the right faith, and the right action. After the death of Mahavira, over the years, the Jainism philosophy got divided into certain sects. The 2 major sects, as we know them today, are Svetamvaras and Digamvaras. Svetamvaras are the ones who wear white clothes, and Digamvaras are the ones who don't wear any clothes. Now, Svetamvaras were led by Sthalavahu, whereas Digamvaras were led by Vadravahu. Now, there is a funny story or an interesting story about how this split happened and why. It is said that once there was a famine in India, and to escape this famine, certain Jain followers, they migrated to South India. But when they came back, they saw that the Jains who had stayed back had gotten used to a life of opulence. Now the followers who had gone to South India, they started resenting this, and they were being led by Bhadrabahu. They decided they did not want to be part of this kind of attitude any longer, and they decided to take their followers and move to South India permanently. Bhadrabahu went to Shravanabelagola in Mysore and founded the Digambara sect. Sthalabahu, who stayed back in North India, founded the Svetambaras. This Svetambara sect, they spread from Magadha to Gujarat and Rajasthan. After Mahavira's death, his teachings were being transmitted orally as parvas, but with time and due to a host of other factors, they started losing their significance. You see, the dispute between the leaders, that is the Sthalabahu and the Bhadrabahu, and the split that subsequently happened, it resulted in the losing of significance of this Jainism cult. Now let's come to Buddhism. Now Buddhism, as you know, was founded by Gautam Buddha. He was also known as Sakya Muni because he belonged to the Sakya clan. He was born as Siddhartha at Lumbini around 563 BC. His parents were the head of the Shakya clan. His father was Shuddhodhan and his mother was Maya Devi. However, he lost his mother when he was little and he was brought up by his aunt Gautami, hence the name Gautam you see. He had also married in his young life, just like Mahavira, had a wife, her name was Yashodhara, and also had a son whose name was Rahula. But we all know the story, how at the age of 29, Buddha was tired of this death and sickness and misery in human life and decided to find a way to get out of it. And he left home when he was 29 and started to find a teacher for himself. He studied under Ardhakalama, he studied under Rudramaputra, but when he was 35, at Bodh Gaya, he sat under a peepal tree and meditated for 29 days continuously and attained nirvana. Post nirvana, he called his 5 disciples around him and gave them his first sermon at Sarnath. He died when he was 80 at Kushinagar, and his Buddhist followers like to call it the Mahaparinirvana. Now the teachings of Buddha revolve around an 8-fold path, which is known as Ashtangika Marga. This 8-fold path consists of right knowledge, right determination, right speech, right work, right livelihood, right effort, right awareness, and right meditation. According to Buddha, anyone who follows this 8 will surely attain nirvana. Now there are certain things that are to be kept in mind when you study Buddhism. You see, Buddha did not believe in soul, he did not believe in God, he did not believe in Vedas, and he for certainly did not believe in Brahmanical supremacy. Now, if you remember what we discussed while discussing Mahavira and Jainism, Buddha comes in direct contradictions with Mahavira in the context of soul. You see, according to Mahavira and his Jain followers, there is soul in everything, that is Jiva. Even the non-living things are thought to have souls by the Jains. But Buddha did not believe that there was anything called soul. He said, everything is transient in this universe. The entire universe is soulless. There is only a transmigration of character that takes place from one life to another. And this happens, or this depends upon the action of that particular life. Therefore, you see, it was character on which Buddha emphasized. And it was the actions that you committed as a character which was responsible for your attaining nirvana or not. Now, Buddha also emphasized on 4 cardinal virtues. It was Maitri, that is love for all, that is Karuna or compassion, Mudita, joy over others' success, and Upeksha, that is inner power. He said a Buddhist should avoid pursuing certain bad instincts such as anger, jealousy, ill will, arrogance, stubbornness, or self-pride. Like Jainism, Buddhism was also a higher system of ethics, essentially. It was not conceived to be a religion. See, Buddha did not consider anything called God. So it is highly improbable that anybody should consider him as God and start out a religion. But that is what happened in later years. Buddha came to be regarded as a god and Buddhism came to be seen as a religion. Buddha preached a higher system of ethics. The central idea of his teaching was to lead a holy life. He preached against caste system. He did not accept untouchability and believed that people of all castes can attain nirvana. Here you must understand that Buddha was not against the caste system. He believed that people of all castes can attain nirvana. This is enough. He also tried to give a new term to the political and the economic system of that time. He held that the primary cause for society's evil was poverty, and it was the state's duty to eradicate it. He included all sorts of people into his Sangha, even the women as well. Initially, he was against including women, but later he allowed Gautami, who was his aunt and witness, as the first woman disciple of the Sangha. So you see, the main characteristics of Buddhism was the establishment of Sangha, the admission of female members into Sangha, and the equal rights to the male and the female members, and holding religious discourses in vernacular languages. As was the case with Jainism and Mahavira, Buddhism too got divided into certain sects after the death of Buddha. The two major sects here were the Hinayana Buddhism and the Mahayana Buddhism. The major difference between the two was that in Hinayana philosophy, Buddha was seen as a leader or a mentor, but in Mahayana Buddhism, Buddha was seen as a god. Mostly the followers of Hinayana Buddhism were the yellow color, whereas the Mahayana followers were the red color. There are certain other differences as well. The Hinayana Buddhists, they don't believe in bodhisattvas, but in Mahayana Buddhism, the followers believe in bodhisattvas. They are nothing but certain avatars of Buddha who come into this world with the aim of helping others to attain nirvana before they themselves attain nirvana for themselves. As we had said, the Hinayana people, they wear yellow robes, and the Mahayana people, they wear red robes. The Hinayanas were also called as Theravada Buddhists, and they were also known as Westerners as well. The Mahayana Buddhists were Easterners or Mahasangika. The Hinayana people, they do not believe in Jatakas, but this Mahayana people, they believe in Jatakas. The Hinayana people, they stuck to the Pali language, whereas the Mahayana people, they converted their literature into Sanskrit. The Hinayana people are very rigid in their beliefs, whereas Mahayana is quite flexible. The Hinayana with time became less and less popular, whereas the Mahayana Buddhism gained much popularity. You see, the Dalai Lama we see today of Tibet, he follows the Mahayana Buddhism. Even in countries such as Japan, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, where there is a considerable amount of Buddhist population, there are Mahayana followers more than Hinayana followers. Now at the end, we must do a simultaneous study of Jainism and Buddhism to find out what all similarities were there and how they were different. So, if we take the similarities first, both Jainism and Buddhism were against Vedas, they were against rituals, they were against sacrifices, and they were certainly against Brahminical supremacy. Both Jainism and Buddhism propagated ahimsa and satya, that is non-violence and truth. Both Jainism and Buddhism uplifted the status of Shudra, Vaishya, and the women. You see, both Mahavira and Buddha had allowed women into their fold. Also, both Jainism and Buddhism promoted the use of vernacular languages. Mahavira dealt in Prakrit, Buddha dealt in Pali. Also, both the philosophies had the salvation as their aim, or moksha. They were also both based on Upanishads. They also believed in rebirth. And with time, you see, they were also divided into two major sects. The Jainism and Buddhism both got royal patronage, that is, and it also helped that their founders had Kshatriya background. It helped them in currying favors from the monarchy. When we talk about the differences between Buddhism and Jainism, the first and foremost difference is that between character and soul. Buddha was all about character, and hence he emphasized on the transmigration of character. Mahavir, on the other hand, emphasized on the transmigration of soul. Buddha called for a middle path. He did not believe in extreme opulence, nor did he believe in extreme austerity, whereas Mahavira went for extreme acts such as santhara and fasting. Buddha also criticized the Varna, whereas Mahavir did not criticize Varna, because you see, Mahavir was all about the soul, and he considered soul to have no Varna. Buddha also gave out the Sangha, that is an institution where Buddhist monks, both male and female, could come together and propagate his beliefs and ideals, whereas Mahavir did not give out any such concept as Sangha. Buddhism became more popular, whereas Jainism grew less popular with time. The Buddhist tenets and beliefs were quite simple, whereas the Jain tenets and beliefs were rigid. The Buddhist idea of worship involved no penance, whereas Jains went for extreme penance. For Buddha, the body was important, but the Jains, the body was not at all important, that is ajiva. It was a complete waste, and hence they went for punishing the body through acts such as santhara or fasting. The Buddhists, they dealt in the Pali language, whereas the Jains following Mahavira dealt in Prakrit language. There was a concept of redemption in Buddhism, but in Jainism there was no concept of redemption. You could not confess your crime and gain redemption. The Buddhists in the later years gained a worldwide reach, whereas Jainism, as it grew less popular with time, did not get such a reach. The Buddhists went for agriculture, but the Jains, they did not go for agriculture, and Mahavir had forbade them from killing any kind of life. The Buddha also allowed a non-vegetal diet, whereas Jains strictly follow a vegetal diet. The Buddhists go for partial celibacy, but Jainism insists on complete celibacy. Buddha was silent on God. He did not say whether God existed or not, but in Jainism rather, Mahavira said there was God, but it was secondary to soul. That is, Jiva was superior to God. Thus, we come to an end about our discussion of Buddhism and Jainism. These were two philosophies brought out by two great men who wanted to chart a different path from that of the Vedic traditions. It is true that certain faults at the Vedic life was responsible for bringing these two philosophies into existence. However, with time we saw that Buddhism got more currency with people and it spread to other parts of the world due to its simple nature, whereas Jainism got stuck in India. But it's wrong to say that Jainism is confined only to a small section of people, because in India only there are a large number of followers of Jainism, and they even today have adhered to the beliefs and ideals of Mahavira. So now we come to the questions. We have provided you two questions here. These are long questions and these are extremely important in the context of your WBCSC mains examination in your history optional paper. So if you try and write an answer for these two questions, you can get back to us at the link provided in our description. You can mail us your answers and we'll get back to you right away. So here we come to an end of our discussion today. If you like our content, please feel free to like and share our video and subscribe to our channel. You know we are a fledgling institution. We need your help and support. You can write to us, you can tell us how we can improve more. You can do so in the comment section below. And meanwhile, you don't go away from your home. You stay at home, you stay safe, you study hard, and all the best for your upcoming examinations. Thank you for your attention.